What's up, friends? It's time for another lesson with CDK. In this tutorial, I'll be going over how Luigi's down B works and how you can use it to recover. So in general, the Luigi Cyclone is a move that comes out relatively quickly and has 2 hits. The first hitbox comes out at the beginning of the attack and lingers throughout most of the animation. Then, there's a brief pause in which there are no active hitboxes, followed by the second hitbox of the attack at the end. When the Luigi Cyclone is used on the ground, Luigi has great horizontal movement and can set up sick combos with the second hit. But the main thing we'll be talking about in this video is how you can use the Cyclone to recover. Much like Mario and Dr. Mario, Luigi can rise with his down B by mashing B during the animation. Unlike his brother's Tornado, Luigi's down B is different in that he can only recover after charging his down B, which is done by performing it once beforehand. We'll be going over the exact details of charging the Cyclone later on in the video. For now, you just need to know that with each B button press, you have to let go of B for at least 1 frame before another press can be registered. You can only gain vertical distance with down Bs that are initiated in the air, and by mashing B during frames 6 to 43 of the move. The reason for this is that during the first 5 frames of the Cyclone, Luigi will move downward no matter what. Because of this, it's important to mash B as soon as possible after the first 5 frames so that you can negate this downward movement. Distributing your B button presses during the button mash window is essential. If you don't mash after about 7 frames at the beginning of the Cyclone, or 11 frames near the end of the Cyclone, you'll actually end up losing height and won't benefit much from recovering this way. 6 B button presses is the minimum number of presses that are required in order to gain any meaningful height, and holding left or right does not affect how much height you gain. At 19 B button presses, you reach the maximum possible height that you can gain during Luigi's Cyclone. To give you a better idea of how much height Luigi can potentially gain, here's a GIF of where Luigi ends up after each number of button presses. As you can see, 19 presses can get you some insane vertical movement, but requires impossible frame-perfect mashing. Realistically, you'll probably end up getting anywhere from 6 to 13 presses reliably, but if you're amazingly fast, you could prove me wrong. Alright, so now that we've gone over the mashing aspect of the Cyclone, we can finally go over how charging it works. The Cyclone can be considered as either charged or uncharged. When charged, Luigi can successfully use his aerial down B as a recovery move. If uncharged, you'll fall no matter how fast you mash B. When Luigi touches the ground during any part of his down B, the Cyclone will be charged. If Luigi's airborne on frame 44 of the Cyclone, or in other words, immediately after the window where you can mash B to rise, he loses his Cyclone charge. For whatever reason, being airborne only matters during this frame. Being airborne on any other frame of the move won't cause you to lose your charge. One important thing to note is that losing and gaining the charge can happen independently. For example, if you start an aerial down B and use the Cyclone's charge, you'll regain a charge if you land on the ground before the animation ends. Furthermore, you can gain a charge even if you get hit out of it, grabbed out of it, or if it clanks with another move, provided you touched the ground at some point and weren't airborne during frame 44. If you were airborne during this frame, your Cyclone charge will be lost even if your down B was interrupted. This means that if your rising Cyclone gets interrupted before this frame, you can actually gain height and retain your charge. Also, Cyclone charges carry over onto the next stock. This means that if you're recovering and aren't likely to make it back to the stage, it might be a good idea to not bother wasting your Cyclone charge so that you start off your next stock with one right away. Next, I'm going to talk about a trick and fun fact about Luigi's Cyclone. Even though you normally can't gain any height from Cyclones that are performed on the ground, if you start a Cyclone while teetering or on the very edge of the stage or platform, you can actually perform a Super Tornado. Super Tornadoes are interesting because you can do them with uncharged Cyclones, and you can rise much higher with fewer B button presses compared to regular aerial Cyclones. Performing a Super Tornado is really simple. While standing at the very edge of the ground, down B and then immediately hold away from the platform while mashing B. One fun fact is that although Luigi typically starts off matches without a Cyclone charge, there are very specific situations where he does have one right off the bat. When Luigi has a higher numbered controller port than his opponent, there's a possibility of starting a match with a Cyclone charge depending on the stage and what character he's facing. For example, if you're playing Luigi against Samus on Fountain of Dreams, you'll have a Cyclone charge right away. But if you were fighting a Fox on Fountain of Dreams instead, you wouldn't. I'll leave a link in the description box to the list of all the character and stage combinations in which this phenomenon happens. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know about Luigi's down B and how you can use it to recover. Hopefully this video helped you Luigi mains out there. For last week's comment wars, I asked you guys if giving mid and low tiers Fox's up B would make them viable. Although giving these characters a much better recovery would help them out, it seemed like the general consensus was that mid and low tier characters have much bigger problems, such as their limited options in neutral, or their moveset in general. I also asked you which character you thought would benefit the most from this change. Ganondorf, Ness, and Dr. Mario were your top 3 picks. Yoshi was also mentioned a lot, but him benefiting from having Fox's up B is debatable since he loses his only projectile move. For this week's comment wars, I want to know which characters you would want to see covered in future videos. And more importantly, what would you want to learn about these characters? Please keep in mind that I'm only asking this to gauge interest. I can't exactly make any promises, but I will do my best to try and do tutorials on characters that you want help with. Alright, that's all for now. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you found this tutorial helpful or interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that you don't miss out on any new videos. See you next week.